Call to order. Yeah. You're all set? Oh, wait. That's true. Any amendments to the agenda? Okay. Approval of the minutes, November 5th, 2025.
They need to approve the agenda.
Approve the agenda. Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the agenda as presented for December 3rd. Second.
All those in favor? Great. Minutes of the November 5th meeting.
Looking for motion to accept the minutes of November 5th and November 10th. Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
None.
Anyone know? One abstain, none there. Correspondence. We received a notice from. Well, we received a notice from one of the Lake Ormond groups that they were requesting intervener status because the other group, one of the other groups, is petitioning for rule and overturning of the ordinance. So there's really nothing that we need to do other than we were notified. It's between those organizations and the so. Yeah. Any questions on that?
Did we get any communication from them?
No.
No, interesting.
No, came from the parties.
Okay.
Any public comment on the agenda items? Okay. Tax refunds. Also the list. There's 4 of them. Their motion to approve the tax refunds.
I move that we approve the tax refunds as presented. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Appointments. So there's a list, planning and zoning, the town attorney, the Lake Ormond Authority, Inland Wetlands Commission for a 5-year term, Inland Wetlands Commission alternate for a 3-year term, the Historic District, and broadband and mobile communications.
We had extended the town attorney's decision for like 3 months.
Oh, was it for 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was until January 30th.
It was, but you.
I just meet with Randy, and seem to. Quell my concerns.
Okay.
Yes, that we were all concerned about, so.
Okay.
And.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question on Lake Ormond and Rowan, it's an alternate, they all stay here, 12/31/25.
Now, that's not good pick. This is the 28th.
It depends, some are 3, we have a 3, a 5, and a 3. So 28, 30, and 28.
It's a historic district, which is, doesn't have a name in it, but, or it doesn't have a.
Do we have a,
Yeah, that's just.
did we reach out to the historic district? And ask them?
I don't have anybody at this point, and I try to get response on.
The chair was contacted, and said there was a vacancy.
So we don't need to change that date,
We do, because the term still has to move, even though there's nobody on that.
so that one too. I'll make a motion to accept the, what are they called?
appointing.
With the adjusted dates.
Second.
Any other further discussion? All those in favor?
Right.
Okay, so the next item is the rescind motion to remove health insurance opt-out from the employee handbook. So this was voted on, the opt-out program on June 30th, 2025, to remove this. This item was not negotiated in the new union contract, so therefore it's still in the union contract. I am in favor of keeping this motion out of the employee handbook and the obviously is in the union contracts and they are eligible for non-union employees, not to be.
So you're saying, you're in favor of leaving what was approved,
Correct.
and it actually happened on October 7th, just occurred, that's when we made the motion.
Oh, yes, I think the top, sorry. Yep.
You're not worried about having two different. Systems,
Asked if that was a problem, and I was told it was not, so
I asked the attorney, or,
I did not ask them.
oh, well, it's more of a concern about how the town hall employees.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be affected because they're already sent on the website.
No, it's not a grandfather, and if they're already, if as of June 30th, they had this option out, they're okay. But it's not like, it's, if you weren't in it June 30th, then you're not eligible.
I'm also in favor of keeping it and just having it in the DPW of union workers.
Okay. Your motion is-
Yes,
Okay. I'll just stand that it is.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, third item, HRRA ordinances. Jennifer from HRRA is here to discuss them with us. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Well, I can't hear.
Mm.
Microphone's on.
Others on Zoom can hear me?
Jen, we can't hear you.
I hope it's on for him now.
We can hear
Okay.
you on Zoom.
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you on Zoom.
Interesting. It seems like they cannot hear any of us.
Yeah, is there anything we can do to turn up the volumes?
Let's see. Send him a
That's
message.
We got, starting,
You can hear me now?
yeah, we can.
Okay. A little technical difficulty. Thank you. For those who don't know me, I'm Jen Heaton-Jones. I'm the executive director of the Housatonic Resources Recovery Authority. We are the town of Kent's regional solid waste and recycling authority that represents 14 municipalities in Western Connecticut. And I'm here to present to you on behalf of the authority two requests for language changes to your ordinance. One is regarding enhanced enforcement to specifically address non-compliant haulers. The second is regarding the voting structure for members of the authority, moving from a weighted voting structure to one town, one vote. I just want to state that my role is just to explain the purpose and the importance of the language changes and to provide to you any additional information or support you might need to move forward with your own town's procedures. This is happening in every member town across the region. So all 14 member towns are being presented this language to be adopted. I will start with the enforcement language. So although Kent did update the solid waste ordinance, chapter 16, and I believe it was in about 2021, this additional language is to ensure there's continuity from one town, one member town to the next, to ensure there is due process for violators, and they are all treated fairly and consistently. It's important. There is an importance of having consistent, uniform language. It's often our experience that we have found that haulers who are in violation across multiple towns at one time, and it makes it extremely difficult for us as staff to address the violation, with each member town having their own set of penalties and rules. I also want to share a short story to understand the importance of enforcement. It's not just because every hauler in the state is required to register within the town in which they operate with the HRA on your behalf, as though it's just, you know, some paperwork. It's like DMV. It's also to make sure that our residents throughout our towns are safe. So one of the top 10 most dangerous occupations in the country is waste hauling. And unfortunately, in the last 5 years, we at HRA have had 2 fatalities in the region. One was within our transfer station. Unfortunately, a hauler backed over a transfer station operator and caused their death. In another situation, a hauler was driving up Route 202 through New Milford, and a motorcycle pulled out in front of them. And unfortunately, the young person on the motorcycle did not make it. Luckily for us, in those 2 situations, those are 2 registered haulers who were fully insured, and their requirements is to ensure that the municipality in which they operate are listed as additionally insured on their insurance, as well as the HRA. There are a lot of requirements in order for them to be registered and to comply with state statute, as well as the local ordinances throughout the region. But we unfortunately also have a long list of haulers who refuse to register. We do not know if they are licensed to operate a vehicle, to operate a large vehicle. They have a commercial license, a CDL. We also don't know if they're insured. In order for us to have any enforcement, we need to put in place language in each individual municipality that makes the municipality the enforcing body. Although these are state statutes, the state refuses to enforce the regulations, and we have found we have little enforcement as an authority. We as a body don't have the authority, but you as a municipality have the ability to create the enforcement mechanism to allow us to then follow through to ensure that they meet the requirements. I will note that Kent actually, out of all the 14 towns, probably has the best updated ordinance language for enforcement. And although some of the language actually that we're proposing might be redundant, we want to ensure that there's consistency from one town to the next, and also that there's due process for the violator. So that's the importance and the intent of the enforcement language. I'll just quickly move on to the new voting structure language, and then happy to take questions. So the language in front of you to change from a weighted vote to one town, one vote is a little bit of history. The authority was formed in the late 1980s. The region bonded for the construction of the Wheeler-Brader Waste to Energy plant under a 29-year contract. We had a put or pay closure. That means that if the town of Kent didn't generate a certain amount of solid waste during those 29 years, the town of Kent was responsible for paying their share, as well as any other municipality across the region. That contract ended in 2019. And with that, we ended the put or pay contract that required the region to cover any shortfall. So that after that contract ended, we have this new 10-year contract without this clause, and essentially the members no longer have to pay dues or are no longer financially obligated to the authority. And because we had that financial obligation and it was based on population, so your obligation was a lot less financially burdensome than the city of Danbury with 85,000 households. That's all gone away without a put or pay contract. And so what we've proposed is that we have one town has one vote. Currently, the city of Danbury has 34 votes of 100, and the town of Kent has one. We're making it in this proposal that every town has one vote. It's also become very difficult as a region to get a quorum at a meeting. So at our last November meeting, and thank you for Selectman Epstein for joining us at that meeting, he was able to witness that we had 10 chief elected officials in attendance. There's 14 members, yet we did not have a quorum and 10 members because of the weighted vote. So until every municipality, every member town changes to one town, one vote in their ordinance, we cannot legally run our meetings as a one town, one vote voting structure. We will continue to use the weighted voting structure to create a quorum. So I'm asking that this is actually a high priority to have changed as soon as possible. And happy to take questions. I hope that was enough information to help you move forward.
Jen, is Danbury in favor? Okay.
So this has been going on for several years, this process. We actually also had to change our bylaws, which have been changed. Every town voted yes, with the city of Danbury voting no at the time, which was understandable because the Danbury mayor Mayor Alves. He had just been elected and he'd only been in office for maybe a month. And so he was really put on the spot to make such a large decision on behalf of the city. I think that is going to change now that he's been in office for 4 years. This is how long we've been talking about it, for over 4 years, and making these changes and working with legal to find the right language, not only for the individual member towns to change their ordinances, but to also find the right language to adopt as our bylaws. So I'm sorry, that's a long way of saying no, not every town, but 13 out of the 14 towns did vote yes to change to one town, one vote. I will be attending the city council's meeting to explain the importance of this change.
We have not seen an existing ordinance. So it's very hard for us to figure out what's new language, what's old language. And I know you were asked whether or not you could hold off until January to vote on this.
And that's fine if whatever your procedures is, I totally respect. I'm here to ensure that I continue the process by providing the information that is needed. I can point out to you where it is in your ordinance. So it's in chapter 16. It is item number 6. It's on page 8. It's under 16-3 under Housatonic Resources Recovery Authority, number 6. And the language, it's 2 paragraphs, essentially spelling out that the authority shall operate with 100 voting units, which shall be assigned to member municipalities in proportion to each municipality's share of the total population of all members of the authority, etc. So this is where it specifically says that it's a weighted vote. The second paragraph goes on to say that the member of the authority holding a majority of the voting units shall constitute a quorum. So that's where I can't hold a meeting without getting the 51 votes by so many towns. So if you can look at that, we're basically asking you to replace this number 6. So again, it would be chapter 16-3, item number 6, the entire portion of number 6, and change it with the language that we've proposed.
Because if we were to do this at the do work factors really fix? What's the date you have to make?
There's. You guys would have to approve it, and then you'd have to have a public hearing, and then.
Can we do the public hearing right before? Then we have to-
I imagine you could, but that's an ordinance town meeting. So,
We work with Randy also. They're integrating the new policy into new ordinances. But we will do this as quickly as possible, and doubt it will be June.
That's just for the enforcement part, right? Not the way.
For the vote, now she's saying the voting part is pretty important. I understand.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, that is pretty straightforward. The maybe that part was the. I'm not even convinced that we have those. Yeah, that needs. Because they're talking this, the date on says 2012. Yeah.
I think we should postpone them all until at least the January meeting. We have the correct answers and the full information that we need in one document put together so that we can compare it. Make sure that's the way we want to go. I don't think we're in a big rush.
Well,
To do this immediately.
I think the voting then is kind of a rush. For now.
But again, it's all integrated into the one. ordinance. So we did send it to Reagan. Hopefully it's working on it quickly, and then we can, and the board review it and.
There was a special meeting.
I see.
That would be
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, but I would like, it also reiterates the point that I made before, is that the board of selectmen needs to have an up-to-date version. And if the town clerk's office is struggling with that, they need to come and talk to us, and there needs to be some kind of a plan. Because we can't keep doing this, we can't keep leaving held up at that, we don't have to stop.
Good.
Yep.
So Jen, we will work this as quickly as we possibly can, and again, we have to have a special meeting to make it happen, we'll do our best.
Okay, thank you. I'll just a
sorry.
note that it is very difficult to hear you, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I don't know if it's because your mics aren't close enough to you, but you kind of are all going in and out underwater.
Again, in terms of like the hearing rooms.
And how many certified and registered contractors do we have?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How many contractors or garbage haulers are registered in them?
How many contractors? Maybe say it again. Maybe you can step up a little back from your mic.
How many haulers are registered in them?
Are you asking who are non-compliant?
No, just how many we have registered?
Oh, I can answer that in 2 minutes. I know Lynn has a question on the next item in the agenda, so I will quickly look at the same time. I have over 70 registered haulers in our region, and I will tell you how many are registered in the town of Kent in just one moment. Let's see. Bear with me while I count. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have currently 10 compliant haulers, and I'd have to look at a different list to see how many non-compliant haulers you have. And for the record, since I have the attention of your public, maybe, Every hauler that provides any type of service to collection of solid waste includes junk removal as well, bulky waste. Every hauler has to be registered in your town. So if you have a resident who's looking to clean out their house and hire a hauler to drop off a dumpster, they themselves also have to be compliant with this law. They are required to be registered in the town of Kent.
Good enough.
How do they know that they need to register? Is that like,
We notify them and then they ignore us.
so basically if you see somebody driving around with a marked truck, they'll just check it off?
Sometimes we notice it ourselves. Often, more often than none, it is another hauler who is in compliance and has paid the fees and have gone through the process and has the insurance, and they complain to us that, why am I paying my fees? Why do I have to have my insurance coverage? And this guy's operating in this town and he's not compliant. He's not on your list. So often it's self reporting.
And I'll just make a comment about the weighted vote. On the other side of that, you were saying that you couldn't get a quorum because you didn't have enough other municipalities to make the weighted 51%. That could work on the other side too, but you get a bunch that have the weighted vote and they make up enough to have a quorum, and then we don't have representation of the other towns.
Well, we would still need to have at least 8 towns to have a quorum. So you still have the majority, 8 to 9 towns would be present out of 14. But now I can have 10 to 11 towns and not have a quorum because all it takes is the city of Danbury, the town of Ridgefield, and the town of New Milford not to show up at a meeting because the rest of the towns have so few votes.
Good, thank you.
Jen, next item is the legal notice. If you could just give us a.
So just for clarification, this was not a legal notice by the Housatonic Resources Recovery Authority. This was a legal notice by the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. It was a technical procedure. This is in relationship to the proposed new solar-powered in-vessel composting system that we are building near or next to your transfer station with grant funding. And because of the system being considered processing, although it is a very enclosed and controlled system inside a container, Connecticut Deep has its requirements and its own regulations. And through that, because we are required to apply for a new permit separate from the transfer station permit that already exists, we had to go through this process of an EIE, which is an environmental impact evaluation. And the evaluation was actually posted, I believe, back in end of August, beginning of September, 45-day public comment period. Apparently Connecticut DEP missed a dot on an I or across the T. And because it wasn't also published in a newspaper as it is now, we had an additional 45-day waiting period. And so this notice is to allow the public to make any comment or provide any concerns they may have in us building this in-vessel system and whatever concerns they may have, particularly to the environment. Again, this is at the transfer station where there is already activity there at the public works facility and the transfer station. It is in an in-vessel system. The material is enclosed and it is a composting process that does not have any leachate and or odor because we have a biofilter that comes with the system. In regards to any harm of vegetation or endangered species, it would be located where there's already existing activity at the public works facility. So it would not be a new part of the property where there would be any additional harm. I hope that explains it.
The question I had been was, there's a reference to a regional election. That's never been brought before the 10 board of selectmen.
So that was okay, so that's referring to the language within the grant. So in order to get funding, it couldn't just be to the benefit of the town of Kent. This in-vessel system allows you over time, after you've gone through the process of the pilot, to accept material, let's say from the town of New Milford for a small amount of material, or allows you to take material from another neighboring municipality, only if you desire. It allows you to do that. You're not required. It is part of the vision to ensure that we as a region are working regionally.
Are there other towns in Vermont that have done this, that have made a regional process of it?
And so we created the first municipal solar powered ASP composting system in the town of Ridgefield in 2022. That's an aerated static pile. It's not an enclosed in vessel. We've been working on that since 2021 and because of its success, it was followed by a second ASP system built in the town of Newtown. Those two systems right now are only for the towns. And as we work out through the learning curves that we've experienced, eventually we will be supporting neighboring towns, small parts of the neighborhood where the other town may not meet the same needs. So like the town of Bethel is also building an in-vessel system. They won't need their own, but there might be some neighbors on the edge of Bethel that's closer to Newtown, and Newtown would be allowed to take them if they wanted to. It gives you that opportunity so that it's not, your permit doesn't restrict you to only the town of Kent. You also have the ability to charge fees if you wanted. You only have so much capacity, by the way. The in-vessel only takes so much. So it's not as though you're looking at a very large process. But you also need enough material to feed it. And if your residents aren't generating enough food waste to feed the system to make the compost to give to your community, you may need it or want it to provide more additional material from another member town.
That's the one town. Second was not for HR, but because of the grant, it has to be a rock member town, right?
It's because the grant has to be a regional project.
Yeah. But I like the fact that it's not required. Like, I'm reading the legal notes that I didn't know. We still have control over it, basically.
It's your system.
Yeah. Okay.
At the end of the day, although we applied for the grant, it's our funding, and we will be reimbursed for it. You will own it.
Question. So just to clarify, this is gonna be the big machine that goes in and takes them. Accepts things, not the little machines that are putting at the welcome center and outside of the transfer station. So a couple of questions about the composter machine. How much does it accept? How long does it take to compost that out, and what is used to help accelerate the compost? Let's start with those.
Okay, again, kind of hard to hear you, but I think I heard all of the questions. So the unit is if anyone wants to look it up, or I can also share my screen, it's an earth flow system made by Green Mountain Technology. The container itself is about 20 feet long and about 10 feet wide. It's what we call a sea container. Often you would say it again.
Heat, okay, heat, and it is that.
See container, right? SEN?
Yes, like you would see on a ship, a sea container. It looks similar to a sea container, it looks similar to an enclosed dumpster. So it's a box, it's a metal box. Inside, so it only can take so much capacity, 20 feet by 10 feet. It has an auger inside. The auger is going to be run by solar power. And it takes about 30 days for the material to be aerated by the auger to produce compost. And then you would want the compost to cure for a period of time, at least another 30 days. And then you can provide the compost to your community.
And how much does it hold?
I have to look at the specifications, but it's the cubic yards. It wouldn't be a full container. It only goes about halfway full of a 20-foot container. So you're only talking maybe less than 5 yards at a time. I'm guessing, to be completely transparent. I don't have the specifications in front of me.
So 5 yards will basically take 60 days. And then we can't do anything else with it in that 60 days, it sits till it's done. And then we can read.
It's recommended whenever you make compost to let the compost cure. It's quite quick if anyone, any of you are composters. It typically takes many months to have a compost pile break down to fully cured compost. So because
There's no chemical, sorry. There's no chemical used in the breakdown.
there are no chemicals, it's simply nitrogen and carbon. Nitrogen source is your food scraps from your residents, and the carbon source would be either leaves or mulch.
Jen, will we have to have another container to collect things and how this is happening?
No, the reason why we chose this particular technology is because you can consistently feed it. So you are collecting food scraps on Saturdays and Sundays at the transfer station. That material, those containers will be fed into the earth flow and continuously. And so it's a continuous process of adding food scraps on one end and compost being made on the back end. And there will be a presentation being provided. It was sent out to Public Works as well as the first selectman. And I'm happy to share that link if anyone wants to join that meeting or presentation from Green Mountain, and specifically how the technology works. They're the expert. I just pretend to be an expert on this technology. And so I'm sure they could answer a few more questions than I can this evening. There was something else you said that I thought, oh, maybe it would be a good point to bring up. It will come back to me, but keep going. Keep asking questions if you have another question.
No, we don't know yet whether we go to the transfer station or at Public Works.
Can you repeat that?
Be at the transfer station. I got 2 of them, is that sound
And maybe if you just speak a little slower, and I apologize, it's just hard.
Where will it be?
Where will it be?
It'll be inside the transfer station?
Originally, it was proposed to be inside the transfer station. Connecticut DEP came back and said, no, you can't put it there because your permit doesn't allow you to have a processing permit. This is the complications of the state regulations. We were required to move it. So we literally just moved it across the retaining wall onto the Public Works property. So it's going to be pretty much at the transfer station, but on Public Works property and not the transfer station property. Happy to share that map with you as well.
So if we accept from municipalities, they would have to go in and dump there.
No, so your resident, if I heard your question correctly, the residents do not dump in the container.
But if we accept it from other towns,
I'm so sorry, I can't understand you.
If we accept from other member towns,
Oh, okay, if you accept material from other towns. The
you know, driving there to dump.
That would be a decision by the Public Works or the town to decide how that would work logistically, whether the cart would be left for your own attendant to add it to the system or to require them to add it to the system.
And you said that we could get compensation from other member towns for accepting their scraps.
Yeah, that's the model that we're proposing in Ridgefield, where if there's material from outside, non-resident, your residents, there would be a fee to collect. I also want to note that right now, under the current program, now I remember what I was going to say, the current program, there is a cost to transport the food scraps that are being collected at the transfer station to be transported and tipped, that tipping fee, at New Milford Farms. Currently, we're paying just short of $500 a month. We've been paying that HRA under the grant. There would be no cost of transportation and tip fees with the process of the in-vessel system. The whole concept of all of these regional in-vessel or ASP systems is to ensure that we as municipalities can be self-sustainable when it comes to managing our own residential food scraps. And of course, we want every resident to backyard compost, but we also are aware and respect that many don't want to do that or can't do that or have concerns of doing that. So the next best thing is bring it to your town transfer station at no additional cost. And then if you don't want to put it in your car and drive it across town, we do have haulers who are registered and permitted to collect curbside food scraps to bring it to a facility like New Milford Farms. In the town of Ridgefield and other towns, some of those haulers are looking to bring it to our larger facilities. Like the one in Ridgefield in Newtown is much larger than what we're proposing in Kent. Kent is a much smaller, intimate system than the other systems. But the whole concept is throughout the region, each individual municipality can be self-sustainable and or work with another town to be self-sustainable when it comes to this material. And I think, I'm sorry, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I think it should also be noted that why are we even doing this? And it's because we are in a waste crisis in the state of Connecticut. We produce 3.5 million tons of waste annually in the state. We only have capacity for 2.7 million tons. So we're almost short about 1 million tons of capacity. And with 30% of our waste stream being organics, this is an opportunity for us as municipalities to provide a solution to our residents and to our towns before it becomes a state mandate. Already the schools starting July of 2026 are going, if you hit a certain threshold, you are required to source separate your organics. Where are those schools going to take that material? It's the dime of the taxpayers that have to provide that expense as well. We as a region are creating this network to ensure that we are ahead of the mandates and ahead of the issue that we're facing in the state by providing a self-sustainable system to manage this material. And it's economical and it's environmentally friendly. It's compost. And you're giving it back to your community and enhancing the nutrients of your soils.
Thank you for that explanation. In order to reiterate.
There's other question, but that's maybe between up in the town banks and. Just here.
Anything else you done? Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And please let me know if you would like additional information. I don't have all of your email addresses, so I'm happy to share the mapping, applications, language, site work. I've been working very closely with Rick Osborne, who's been fantastic. By the way, you have one of the best public works directors in the region. I don't say that often, but I truly mean that. He's fantastic. So he's been great to work with, and you're very lucky to have him. But I'm happy to provide you the information that I've been working with him on. Just let me know. And Eric, I think, and Lynn as well has my email address.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Anything else in HR?
No, it was just really cool. There's
Yeah.
That's the little bit.
They're just like,
Yeah.
but it's nice because it makes it so. The people who have the permits aren't restricted to just using the seven. That was like from the third issue, the first one. For the scratch.
Yes, I'm just sitting here from the summer. Just in the summer. So just some town questions that I have, like, because the other towns would be able to drop off any time of the week because it's gonna be in the public works lot. Not like inside the locked transfer, transfer station.
That it all kind of figured out.
And it's adding extra to our guys, but now somebody will have to go to the welcome center and pick that up and bring it back.
But that's assuming that Kent doesn't have enough capacity on its own.
Right,
You know, with funding not being able to take from the county.
that's what I was gonna compare.
And if they make these new collectors, new to collectors, we may see that more people are interested in doing it. We have to advertise it.
Right, so you can buy
Yeah, scratch.
scraps, only, yeah.
And I think she said that we can't accept other things from other municipalities until the pilot portion program is completed. So you're in a pilot program right now, so you can't even do it yet. Okay. I didn't understand. Yeah. It's doing that, it's doing it again.
It was good for a while.
Okay, anything else?
Mm.
All right, moving on. 2026 Board of Selectmen regular meeting schedule. I'd like to propose moving it off this night. This is a bit of a time from some other meetings. I'm hoping that the third Tuesday will work for everyone.
Personally, I would prefer the second Tuesday, except for February, because my son's 18th birthday. But, I feel weird like the third week, it's just such a. No, beginning of the month, not the end of the month, but we didn't want to rest out.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the second is better for everybody else, I can see if my other board would change.
Have you guys already, your other board already filed your?
No, I don't know, it's not as much.
Okay. Okay.
But we have been consistent.
I'm fine on the third Tuesday, just this year.
I mean, I pushed this board to go earlier in the month. But I don't think it's really okay that. It's actually a part of her. She, really hurts. So probably easier for you for the third Tuesday. Right, because the Board of Finance is the third Thursday. There's no change. Of course.
So it's gonna happen after our meeting.
Well, you're typically gonna go longer.
But again, it doesn't really matter if we're in the beginning of the month, at the end of the month, I guess, so. Either one I'm fine with, except for that February 10th date, which was the second Tuesday.
And is it recently like 6?
Nope,
Because we have to make it 6 for.
yep, is that better?
It is, otherwise I'm not here.
No things.
I am.
So I guess we need a motion to make the,
I'll move that the regular board of selectmen meeting scheduled for 2026 be adopted as presented with the following change that we would meet at 6:30 on the third Tuesday of each month.
Second,
Second, sorry.
thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Very good, thanks. 5 years capital. 5-year capital implementation.
More people on the call. No. Really, we're kidding with all merged. It's just helpful to know. Lord, people.
I know, I don't know what's going on because I can see it on my screen that way, but not on this one.
So Barbara's gonna give us a,
Yeah, so just to explain. So there was an earnest intent to provide this information to you and you for some of the requests that we have for that. So I created a synopsis page, which is the front page. I broke it into 3 pieces. Start at the top of the page. The very top of the page shows what the approved plan was in the last fiscal year versus what the proposed plan is based on submissions that have been received to date and the variance. The yellow section signifies dollar amounts that will affect the tax levy. The green section is the 5 years out that does not affect the tax levy. It's just the plain piece. So you can see that when you look at the global plan, the whole 10-year plan, it's up $1,595,000 over last year. What was approved. So then what I did was I broke it down a little further for you, and that's the middle section, so that you can see which departments made adjustments. Now, some of the adjustments were just within the plan that had already been approved. They either added money or moved it from one place to another. And then there were some that had flat out additions. So that's why there's 2 columns in yellow in the middle section and 2 columns in green, because some departments actually took money out of the portion of the plan that would be coming in and pushed it out further into the green section. So additionally, this section tells you when I sent the requests out, when I got the responses. There were 3 requests that went out very late, and typically land use and reval don't have a significant impact on the capital plan. And neither of them made any adjustments to the information that's currently in the plan. Emergency management was a brand new addition to the plan, last year. And there is no emergency management director. The deputy requested a worksheet, I provided it, and then I got a response. The Board of Education typically does not submit response. They typically present it, and they have in the last few years, directly to the Board of Finance. I got no response from them at all. And I copied the principal and the buildings department and work with. I reached out to everybody and got nothing. So I don't know what their plan is, saying the statement of treatment. Right. So then to further break down the information, the bottom section shows you exactly which projects are affected by the changes that people had requested or additions. And then yellow represents changes that are in the approved portion already. The green represents changes that are outside and are just plain. So even though between the 2 plans it's up $1,595,000, only $465,000 of that is actually going to affect the tax levy. The balance is in the plan. Those that so Then you have the capital plan as it's been presented in the past. However, I changed the presentation so that you could see the cell indicators. And that would allow you to follow the cell nodes back to the cells that I've provided. And as I said in my email, the request came for me to provide 5 years worth of narratives. There aren't 5 years worth of narratives. Many departments never provided narratives. They just said, this is what I want. Put $5,000 over here and $10,000 over, without any narrative or explanation. And the narrative would come at the public meeting when they presented it to the Board of Selectmen. They would sit and discuss it. So the only way to provide all these narratives would be go back through all the lists and call them to produce these documents. And that's not an efficient use of time, because as you can see, regardless of what the initial requests have been, there's been so many changes made either by the Board of Finance, by the Board of Selectmen, by the departments themselves as their priorities change. Some of these comments go backwards, some of these changes go back to 2022. So that's helpful for you to see the amount of modulation that happens. That's probably those by 4 pages up. So I did create the folders, as I've said in the email, and if the folder, a folder for each department has 5 folders in it, and you have requested. If there's nothing in that folder, that means I have nothing. And I was explaining to Joyce earlier today that when I went to go populate those folders, I was realizing I didn't even start going digital until 2024. So back in 2022, when I was doing the budget season of 23, I wasn't digital back then. So for me to produce documents, I've actually got to go get my paper file out of the storage and dig through it to do that. So my office is transitioning now to a digital paperless office, but that doesn't happen overnight. That takes time. So I gave what I had, everything that I had, as much information as the group provide. And I added an additional document to it today, which gives you the current capital projects and the activity. I produced this on 11/21, so it's about, we get enough of a really good deal, not a lot of activity we can have. But you can see on the far right column when those projects were fully funded. Some of those projects have dates that are not 7/1, and that's because they got fully funded either by a budget transfer or by pre-funding through the town meeting or items like that. I did the day after Thanksgiving, when I was logging in to do the required banking, I have to do a day whether I have a day off or not. I saw that we got this money that I've been waiting for these from this DOT bridge program. It had hit the bank, but we even send an email, which is unusual, but I was like, where then? Oh, that's the capital. So please. So these 2 projects here, number 8 and 9, that show negative balances, those will now be zeroed out. Which is wonderful. I just haven't had time to put it.
Any significance, Barbara, between the red and the black on the 8s?
Well, I think the red just means that they're older. Yes, the black are all 2020.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right, and the red is older. And the one change that I did make when I was talking to Eric earlier, he pointed out that there was in the DPW capital under the details section of the capital request, their balance is over here in the far left, and there was a negative balance in truck number 9. And that actually got taken care of last year with the budget transfer. So that's 0 at this point. And so I did update that in the document that I gave you, as well as the document that's in the shared folder. The document that's in the shared folder, I haven't shared it with the town clerk or the public yet, because y'all haven't even had time to look at it. And I may end up taking some things back out of it if you don't think that the information is relevant or necessary, because it's an awful lot of information that. If somebody starts reading something, a narrative from 3 years ago, and then looks at the frame, and the information isn't there. It's gonna be time consuming to explain that piece of it to people as we go through the process. So personally, I think that it's not relevant information to read. Yes, the current year narratives, absolutely good. Prior year narratives, only if they're requesting, because they may not reflect what's actually there, you know, especially with marriage.
Yeah. I'm curious why you wanted to include what I think of as the 10-year plan, the 5 years further out than on in the taxable section.
Including what?
Why you included this,
In the summary,
yeah,
because it's relevant. It's relevant to see what new projects are coming in, relevant to see what the balances are gonna look like as the Board of Finance has a recommendation, I'm going to say exactly the policy, but it's like the recommendation for the capital plan is they'd like to see.
other guidelines that they approve.
Well, that, okay, that was the word I was looking for. So those guidelines now, if these years out here, all of a sudden say $5 million a year, that's something that you need to start looking at now to say, what's going on, what's coming on the pipe, why is this like this? So it's all relevant. Otherwise, we don't need 10 years, we don't need it in 5 years. So that's one.
I'm a little concerned that it'll confuse people. It's been hard enough for people to understand the Bible.
That's why I covered it.
Yeah.
And I kept the color coding consistent. And this may not, you may not think this is a relevant addition to the capital plan.
It may be a very good tool for us, you know, and for the Board of Finance. I'm not sure it's gonna make sense to general.
Well, I agree.
Yeah.
But I was trying to.
No, I appreciate it. You get it.
What your request was, when I first started doing it, I scrapped my whole presentation and started over because it was unwieldy. It was all over the place, and I thought there's got to be a way to make this more concise, and this is what I came up with. But again, things change so often, and just a case in point, Park and Rec gave me their request in the timely manner that was asked for. And a week and a half ago, I got an updated request because they've changed their money. And I said, I'm not putting that in yet, that has to wait. We're rolling with the first request that you submitted, and we'll go from there. Because they want to do more things around and budget transfers and all sorts of things, and we need to like get some firm ground under your feet first before we start really moving into all over the place. Right? And it's important for you to see what the initial plan, the initial request looks like. Before you start moving.
I do appreciate all the time you listed.
This is great.
Excuse me?
This is wonderful. I appreciate this.
So I wanted to be able to just explain the machine. And you can see that each thing total out so that you know all the numbers are consistent. And sure that it's higher. This is the first one I wish they did with me. Why is this like 30 grand? What did I miss? So typically, I don't know what's gonna happen with the Board of Education. There's been a couple of emails going back and forth. The superintendent has emailed me regarding the group that's gonna go over in the roofing project to start on their paving project, but their paving project isn't even fully funded, so they can't really start that then anyway without a pre-funding request. So there's gonna be some activity coming down like from that. I'm just not sure when. They're definitely already. And mention it, they're over the line now and they're into the taxable portion of the land. So, if they have a vehicle, they're $110,000, and they just got a vehicle last year, so I'm not sure.
They go for just, we have to hire a vehicle.
Oh, I'm saying, they're right, I'm sure.
Real quick, guys, and this is Tim, by the way. I'm sorry. So I'm gonna take that for the emergency management thing because I thought what was presented to me, like the numbers that were in there for like the vehicle and stuff like that, was already in the proposed capital. So my apologies that I didn't send that back to you, Barbara. And because again, that's what the worksheet that I had. I thought that those numbers were already in there. So again, my apologies. I didn't realize that that was not the case. So the stuff that was in there for emergency management, I had removed. I was going to remove the vehicle, but keep the other funding for the community house and other things that were in there, but removed $100,000 for the vehicle out of that. So again, my apologies. I the first time being, kind of stepped into that role very late, and I apologize for that.
So, wait, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying, Tim. You're saying we should take out the 110,000 that's not needed for vehicle?
Again, that was my opinion of taking the 110,000 out for a vehicle for emergency management. Yes, that was my thought process. Especially, we were able to get 2 vehicles this past year for very decent amount of money, and I think that there might be, if emergency management needed another vehicle, that would be a better alternative, maybe a $10,000 item like we did from the truck for me or for the sewer commission. So
Yeah, thank you.
I'm hoping that, so the board of finance is asked for their schedule, they, I hope that we have something for them, 17th or some. On their schedule. So what are the chances of us scheduling a special meeting to put on capital and invite people in that we may want to speak to? Is that something that we do for next week or?
That's all I'm guessing. This is what they request, right?
That's a question in the. Yeah.
We look to understand what all these requests mean. We have to use the narratives.
Yes.
Otherwise, it doesn't.
There's really, there's some lyrics. We came from. DPW, there's someone from KSB. Market records from the food. 36 agreement with the area.
We can also invite these people in and ask them questions.
That's the typical process.
The only note that I don't have something on next week, was Monday the week. That doesn't be.
No, it's not at the end of the work, I was just thinking for agenda. One. Yes.
That's the way it means, yeah. Okay.
You're good, yeah. So can you schedule one of the special meetings for the 8th at 6:30? We'll discuss. Capital. Great.
And can we make sure everybody,
Yeah. What do you want to talk to? Everybody?
well, fire department, great. The Board of Education is odd because they normally deal directly with the board of funds. But they didn't, they may not have started until. Well, I mean, I remember that this discussion. When Bruce Act was here, so do they, I'm not really clear on whether or not we have the legal authority to change their requests. They can make the requests. They communicate usually with. So. I really don't think that we can change that.
Well, we can listen to that.
We can listen for sure. Well, they haven't made any changes. They didn't submit anything.
But like I said, they've just gone through a chair resigning and a new chair being, so they're in transition.
I think parking lot also.
mean, I read through the stuff from Ty Kern and from Jen. For the assessor to be done.
Parking like that, actually.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying they didn't. It's very detailed.
I think the more people talk, the better.
Yeah. Would be the argument of whether they want to switch, right?
Oh, that's clear.
There's so many moving pieces that the bid opening or whatever they have for the park, and so now. This thing between the recommendation to the board instead of what contract they're looking to award. And whether they have a review for that or whether they don't.
Okay, anything else on capital, correct?
Pretty much one place as well. So. You want me, we sell those as a project.
I think some notes are great.
I think they're great. You know, I think it's great history. I'm thinking about, like, when we present to the annual town meetings. I think there needs to be a written narrative, and if the board of selectmen needs to write that written narrative. I've long thought that there needs to be a clear understanding of what these projects are in each of the years. Because we get the questions and we have to be able to understand. And it just makes sense that we explain it in writing rather than just verbally explain. That was what I was hoping that we would be able to have, is a verbal narrative, a narrative that would explain what these projects.
Well, it's like 50 projects.
I know.
So they really didn't.
I mean, I'm willing to take a stab at working on it, not for next Monday, but before the annual town meeting.
Okay. Well, let's see what we have for narrative, and then what we can.
You've got everything that
Sorry.
you decide to make.
Right, but like you said, like the good example is the communications upgrade for the fire. That means that, what is that money gonna be used for? I mean, I heard different things, but it would be nice to have it in a week. That's good.
Take a look.
Yeah. The same way with the bridges, the roads. I mean, yes, we have detail, but we once again we have bridges that are numbers.
Right, so great
We
sheet.
do know that, he gave it to us, but it's not here. Next to how much it
So
costs.
you're anticipating some sort of hand.
Yeah, I'm thinking of
Hopefully,
the public, just the public understanding. We all probably understand stuff really well, but the public, it's very challenging.
I think we're in a position of challenges that you try to put that much detail into one document. You can't even get something you can look at. If you try to put all the bridges in here,
But see, how the board that has, like, they have their page up here where they have the narrative. And then they have the information down here. That's what I'm thinking, something like that, where it's not crammed into the Excel file. But it's another page where you're explaining what these projects are.
okay. It's. Thank you, Barbara. Okay, Swift Cows. I know that the last meeting was the full board, the resident being forward asking us to act as Swift House as come up with a plan and then, figure out what we're gonna do. I certainly understand that that is important, needs to be done somewhat exponentially, but I also don't think it's the biggest priority of the city board in December of the season of going to the budget season. So, with that being said, though, there's also a big number in the capital plan for the swim pass, so we need to, I think, come up with a plan and tackle that. And if you to do that quickly, decide on whether to keep that funding in there or. Yeah. You want to talk about it? Sure, sure, we can talk about that, sure.
So. I have to say in my heart, I really want to keep the Swift House. It's a great building, but unfortunately it's fell into a lot of disrepair. Is that repair as bad as, or do we need as much as what the company that came in said? I know if we talked to some local tradesmen regarding HVAC or electrical. Some of the things that they aren't really. Don't have to be done. I think it was kind of over. Too much. So one of my questions, again, I don't remember how much we paid that company to come in and do that report. But one of my questions would be that maybe we deal with some tradesmen to go in and look separately and get their opinion from a boots on the ground person. Instead of maybe an office person who's putting this report together. So for instance, I talked to a local electrician that I know really well. And he just gave me some ideas. So, they talk about GFI and arc wall breakers. Well, those only have to be in residential homes. As far as the arc wall. If it's not livable space, then they don't need the arc wall. GFI doesn't have to go in everywhere, it only needs to be in certain spots and it's commercial. So there's just little things in there that maybe can be adjusted. And I kind of referenced that with when Park and Rec started looking for people to do the pool. We met with a company and they were informed, at that time, we hadn't transferred any money over, they hadn't transferred any money over. So this person came in kind of with the knowledge of knowing what we already had approved in our capital plan to use. And yeah, okay. And then they came and gave us this wonderfully extravagant, detailed presentation. And at the end was 45 times more what we had originally given them a number of. So that's what I'm kind of associating the Swift House presentation. And do we get another one? But again, we don't have money to pay for another presentation. Do we maybe bring in some tradesmen, local tradesmen who go in there and look and give us other ideas from that presentation? Just throwing some things out there.
The needs assessment was $15,000.
That's what I'm not into.
There was additional work done by the same company for when you applied for the SPEAK grant, right? Joyce? I don't know how much that was. $2,000. And I too think that their presentation was a bit over the top. I mean, we told them we wanted to focus money.
And they did.
But it's, I mean, it's much.
It was top end, it was everything, and we don't necessarily legally need everything that they said. So when you look at the bottom line of that company and we're going, oh my God, how we're gonna fund this, I don't know that that's the right bottom line.
Yeah.
And
Another area here, having some local people, it's Right, doing some things. The problem with the ADA is now, I'm blocking. Should, no,
Shipping.
no, but the architect. Oh, Block, we don't, the architect is primary, right, they're well known for dealing with historic. So. But, you know, it was not that cheap, it's clearly not cheap. For sure.
Not cheap is the least expensive. We don't want cheap.
Yeah, I think the least expensive, and. It's all through this process, it was unclear to me what was required for ADA. And my knowledge of ADA comes from living with an ADA coordinator in Woodfield. So I'm not an expert, but I understand that it's not like the building code, it's not like the electrical code, it's different. So, and we don't even, I don't know if we even have an ADA coordinator here in town, right? We do not. So we don't even have an expert in town here who we can rely on and say, what do we actually do? So, and our building official is not really. So I think, you know, I'm with you. I think we can do some more research and come up with a proposal. I also question why it's even proposed. I really do. Because I would really like to speak with Randy about that, because we, in the past 2 years, we've never actually talked to him. Or former first selectman, the board here.
So I am certainly not opposed to what you recommended, bringing some people in. Still on track out for 6, 8, 10 months, so. Literally willing to tackle that and invite some contractors in and.
My idea was to take that presentation to some contractors and see if what they say, just like I took it to the electrician and say, what do you think can change, or what do you disagree with, or, you know, saying that there's a certain, they believe there's probably a certain type of wire beyond the wall, but they're guessing without opening up an outlet and checking the wires. So a little bit more concrete information.
And they like, look at
Should be able to take an outlet cover off and they can take the receptacle out and get it, yeah. So can we do that? I don't think there's HVAC in there, I don't know what's in there, but.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to see a person, we talked to another. You know, historical tradesman contractor, building contractors. I can.
We did talk with the fire marshal and it might be worth.
Get all the ideas together, yeah. Okay.
Great. So, you know, we're going to report for us by next one. Not, you know, report that this is what we're gonna do and.
Yeah, I will bring my
We're gonna be
meeting.
with and, yeah, great. Excellent.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Town hall ordinances update, so, you've seen the ordinances that are on the, docket, I'll say. And we still have the fire marshal and seek out the various fire lanes, hopes are to get these, flushed out, I quite honestly have not reviewed them yet. But hope to have them, agreed upon or, voted on this board so that we can bring it to a town meeting in February. Should be there with that. Right.
So that means we basically have to do it next month and be ready for the.
Or again, if we decide to do a special meeting to handle just ordinances, we can do that also. I mean, again, goal hopes February. Get done in February, then, you know. Okay. Does anyone have any questions that they want to discuss tonight on the weeds?
I would have economic development, that's a separate mission, but I'm pretty good with them, but I've been
Right.
looking at those ones, so.
I reviewed the fire lane one pretty closely. The other ones that I wasn't sure what they were. Did they have to do you get them in there?
Are they in the, this ordinance is in a special folder? So we will get them to you. Yep.
I can go back and find them too.
No, it's it. Something to keep it.
Okay. I can ask the doctor.
Thanks to Joyce for. I'm sorry that I didn't communicate with you, but thank you for doing research of. I did reach out to Washington. And Litchfield. Washington was interesting in this, they said they were just a. They said that it's a committee of the planning. So they don't have a.
Oh, really?
And then told down here that the weekend. Okay. And when I looked at Litchfield, I looked at Litchfield and Goshen. They're almost identical, and they're, both of them have been around for the ordinance, it's a long time ago. And I even looked at. It's basically. Referring to state statute, so these groups have obviously taken. They've taken the bones of it and then they run with it, you know, so they're not limiting themselves by just the ordinance. And the previous board talked a little bit about that, well, maybe this group would have a spy with us, be able to. Well, I don't know, so they would. But I think not follow what's true. You did have a discussion last month about. Cause I wanted to see the commission, it's not a committee, it would be a commission. It's on the agenda for the committee. They need to be. They need to be mentioned, they're not a subcommittee of the board of selectmen. They need to be. Entity, in my opinion. We need to have one. I think the most effective economic development commission. Or they're communicating for sort of, but. They're not communicating. Like this lot.
Okay.
I don't really know enough about it, but what I was asking. It says about having funding. Getting the funding request. What would that funding be used for?
Well, I think the best ones have they have a website and they offer events. Now, we are in an unusual situation that we go to an acting chamber, so there needs to be sort of an agreement of what is the chamber going to do in the development initiative? Because they need to work in concert, but they get ability to do the same activity. You know?
So what's the difference?
Well, the difference is the chamber is a membership organization.
But as far as
But they don't do anything that is not for members. It's important, it's an important distinction.
Because if you're not a member of the chamber, they're not gonna advertise your group. Whereas the Economic Development Commission, they're an entity of the town. So they are, you know, when you wanna know where to go to stay in a place or to go out to eat, it doesn't matter whether you're a member. It's everybody. So they're really promoting the entire town.
How much do you think they would ask for? How much in funding would the EDC be looking for? Any idea yet?
I don't know, I mean, it depends also for if they would have any help. Then. One, I think they're gonna need a website. And two, are they gonna need something? Or some dedicated, you know, basis. I think it would be nice if we started an office in Seaton, though. So, I mean, talking about starting this right.
I read everything you put on there and the other town stuff and everything. I think I'd still like to learn a little bit more about it and see if this is necessary.
Well, have you followed for like 6 months, there was an economic development committee that worked on mission statement and we followed it.
I did a little bit through your reports.
Not only one part of this.
Or Glenn's, okay. Selectmen reports.
Yeah. So maybe that group needs to make a presentation to you guys, so you understand what, because they did a lot of research. They talked to a lot of people in town. We disbanded them, but we are also inviting the groups that talk to us.
Sure.
I need to learn more about it before I can take a real position on it.
Okay. So we'll invite them to the January meeting. Yeah, very great. All right, anything else on economic development? Okay.
Well, I gotta say that one of the sessions, I got to go to the Connecticut Conference Municipality conference yesterday. And one of the sessions, there was discussion about funding mechanisms. And I think that it's something that we're gonna need to think about for developments. So I can't get into it here, but I mean, there's a lot of things beyond just tourism that an economic development.
That's what I remember.
Yes, and I think if you look to the bigger towns like Milford and Torrington, you'll see Bates and Waterbury, they're making things happen. Because they're, I mean, it's that too, but there's a lot of stuff that volunteer.
Okay.
Okay, subcommittee reports. Right.
So I managed to get you guys the written report. The most interesting thing of our last meeting in November was that we heard from Frontier, and Frontier claims that they have made available to 1,400 locations, which is how many houses we have. So I don't understand how they do it all. I don't know. So, we're hoping to be able to have more conversations with Frontier. And I had reached out to Eric and asked him to revisit the non-disclosure agreement that Frontier wants the town chance to sign before we can put these discussions. But hopefully that will, hopefully that country. The broadband committee is looking forward to doing some sort of informational sessions in the spring to educate people about what
are the different types of broadband connection. What is fiber optic? What is coaxial cable? What is Starlink? And so and we want to partner with the library on that, and we picked a couple dates. And so we're going to be working toward that. We're also going to be trying to share information through opinion articles in like the Kent Dispatch, and I would love for us to actually resolve the social media policy, so broadband actually social media account and be able to sort of share information. And so that's where we're at. And we've been working on that for a while, but we're picking up steam. So, you know, sustainability team, we have, is PJ still on the call? Did she drop off? Oh, no, do that. So, we've got an active group, and we're working toward, and I should probably at some point make a presentation to you guys about what sustainable connected is all about. Because it's a little amorphous if you, there's a series of actions in like 12 different categories where we can achieve points. And the actions are all things that the municipality does. It's not really the town. We can partner with nonprofits, but the town actually, the municipality actually has to do the things for us to earn these points. And we have 2 times a year, we can submit the points and get awarded the points. And we would like to get bronze status, which is the lowest level. And I was fortunate enough to go to the award ceremony. And I saw that little old Roxbury got thrown sets. I'm like, so I'm trying to make an arrangement to meet with one of their sustainability members and hopefully glean some tips from them. But we've also had some conversations with 2 new employees who have done what is called a points audit. And so they've gone through what we've done so far, and what we've talked about doing, and they've sort of giving us some guidance as to what directions we should go, which has been really helpful. And that's within the last month. And that's through that that they shared this equity coach services, which I've shared with you guys. I would love to be able to do this for the town of Kent. Basically, it's a free thing that Sustainable Connecticut offers, and it's just trying to help us complete some of those actions. I did, full disclosure, I did try to get an equity statement approved. We did approve it here at the Board of Selectmen level, but it was not broadly encompassing enough, and so the Sustainable Connecticut they didn't approve it. So I'd like to be able to revisit that and be able to come back to the selectmen. And I think this coach could help us fix this. Why we didn't have enough wording in the right wording. Sure. So this is just a person that's going to guide us through getting some stuff done. I'm thinking you guys will be supportive of that. But I understand that it's more country with you. If any of you guys need to talk with anybody from Sustainable to get more information, we have our next meeting on January 12th. We have agreed to meet 4 times a year, and we try to time in meetings so that it's carrying us up for the 2 submission dates. One is in April, August. Any questions?
Great, excellent.
The other thing I should mention is I've been talking with PJ Magic, who's a resident who's working with the library to do a solar, energy program, hoping to be a co-sponsor of that. Came up with some potential things in the gym, so that's another project that we could get on to get some help with, so, and educate about solar.
Okay, resident troopers report, we get written report from Vicky. She's been busy with, she does a lot for 20 for jobs, yes, so she's been doing that. She's been at almost all the events, she was at Tree Lighting, she was at the Champagne Stroll, she'll be at the Great Lights this weekend, so. Welcome, Vicky. Selectmen's report. Either, I know you both submitted yours, anything additional before I begin mine? Good,
Nothing additional.
okay.
Get numbers to report.
Yeah, all right. I apologize, I didn't send this out, but good. I've been meeting with the employees and the staff, I don't know what they do, what they need, what made them work and how we help them. I attended the meetings of the cemetery committee, the sewer commission, and the board of finance. Cemetery committee was interesting to learn some of the stuff they're doing and their mapping issues and a few other things. Yeah. Met with the first selectman of Warren in Washington regarding the latest petition sent to Beyond Lake. I also attended the CCM conference yesterday. I thought it was great. There were, I went to 3 different training sessions, and first 2 were great, and the last one I felt from the sales pitch. Wasn't too happy with it. Yeah. CEM, which is the fiber provider to this shortly be in house. And they have also just come out with a offer to provide to the firehouse free of charge. So hopefully looking to get that into the targets. The Park and Rec pool RFP was recommended by the Park and Rec last day.
Accepting a bidder.
Yeah, so that's under review by the town attorney. Once reviewed, it will need to be approved by us. So that's pretty exciting. Connecticut DOT will be installing 6-inch wide edge line pavement markings on Route 7 and 341 in South Kent from the near future. Hopefully increase safety.
What is it? Line pavement.
The one.
Oh,
I think that's it. I think it's the yellows, but I think it's the definitely the ones. I had some thoughts. So we're talking about all these capital improvements, capital ideas, the Swift House. I think we should try and schedule some meetings to go and visit these sites. The Swift House, Community House, with Emery Park, all that's going on, the Kent Commons, the ball fields, town garage, transfer station. I'm just thinking the next, well, several months. Long term, basically, start to look at some of that and actually get an idea of what we're looking at to do focus and stuff. So, your thoughts on that?
I've been in Jumper for years.
I'd like to start with the Swift House just because that's such the, I haven't been in there since I was a kid, so see what's all
Something from the building.
It is, I mean, so I'm upstairs.
It's like different levels. It's an old farm complete. Well, it's actually the 3 buildings that were put together.
Yeah. I mean, we should, it was so fascinating to see the state people come out and show up the state. They were so tickled So they were down in the basement.
The ingenuity and creativity of these little Yankees is amazing.
Great. So I'll work on that and see what we come up with and obviously, special meetings and well, figure out. That's all I've got for my report. Any public comment? Okay. Yeah, it was pretty unspeedy too. Like, first thing like that. So I guess we will.
You know, motion to adjourn.
Ed, did you want to say something?
No, I was just gonna say the sound is horrible tonight. Yeah, the microphones were not picking up hardly at all. It was all muffled, most, just so you know that.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good night. Good meeting.
So we'll continue the motion to adjourn at 8:13. They don't need the second.